This is a safety meeting for July 28th, 2020, presented by Dennis Dalton, the safety officer. This month's presentation is Principal Hazards of Night Flight. The principal hazards of night flight, the acknowledged principal hazard of night flight is reduced vision, both because unlighted objects are hard, if not impossible to see, but also because our eyes are not very good at distinguishing dimly illuminated objects as well. A 2004 article in ALPA's Flight Training magazine further categorizes night flying's heightened risks in 4 ways, 3 addressing vision. First one is the optical illusion that occurs while flying on clear moonless nights over sparsely populated areas. Flying east of Colorado Springs, of course, at night is very sparsely populated and very little lighting, and requires maybe a little bit of focus on areas and roads and cars where they're traveling on the roads and things like that, so you can kind of get an idea of direction. There isn't much out there to look at. Disorienting phenomena in VFR conditions, exacerbated by a little summertime haze that results when flying towards a large body of water. You won't find too much of that around here, unfortunately, unless it's when we have a lot of fires. We get a lot of haze during the day, and not at night. At night, it would be exacerbated for sure. We haven't had too much of that so far this year. But again, that's at night would really create some problems. Wouldn't say too much with water, but as far as seeing any kind of lights on the ground or anything that's going on, that could be a problem. And thirdly, obstacles in a variety of forms, including buildings near approach paths, TV, radio, antenna towers, and electrical utility towers. And of course, as we know, a lot of wind farms. And the last one being engine failure. The ALPA Air Safety Foundation's NAL report summarizes NTSB reported accidents and incidents that occurred and includes breakdown of those that occurred at night. According to the report, although the accident rate in daytime is actually higher than at night, 7.1 accidents per estimated 100,000 flying hours in daytime compared to 6.6 per 100,000 hours at night. The rate of fatal mishap is nearly twice as great at night per 100,000 hours during the day versus 2.6 per 100,000 hours at night. Thus, if you have an accident at night, it's roughly twice as likely to be fatal as a daytime accident. The Aeronautical Information Manual devotes 2 paragraphs to nighttime vision, titled Vision Under Dim and Bright Illumination. Dark adaptation can take 20 to 30 minutes. I know most private pilots will teach them 30 minutes. You do get a lot at 20 minutes, but again, I think it depends on how bright the glare is that your eyes were used to. I think one of those things might be doing pre-flight. Using a really bright flashlight is not usually a real good idea. Red light is advisable inside the cockpit for optimum outside vision acuity, but distorts focus on objects inside the cockpit. The FAA refers a lot to map reading, which with backlighted iPads, I don't think that's as much of a issue as it used to be, and the lighting in most of these T-41s has a little bit to be desired, I guess. So having something with you that is either a dim pen light or a red light is really advisable. Impaired vision at cabin pressure altitudes above 5,000 feet, I think that I guess that would mean that we have impaired vision before we take off around here. So I do carry one of those little oxygen cans at night. I think it does help, especially on long flights, and especially if you're towards the end of a duty day, which we'll talk about a little bit later. This thing about bright illumination, dim and bright illumination, a lot of what this aeronautical information manual does refer to is the daytime sun glare, which I think, as far as iPads are concerned, is really an issue. If to me, if I'm doing an approach and the sun's coming in the left window, it's difficult to see. I have one of those. I go to Walmart, get one of those suction screened things in the automotive department that you can stick on your window to keep the glare down, so I can see the iPad, even though it does have a function for bright illumination. And I guess on that same note, on this second point, I know a lot of people run under the night vision option, which is really a black background with white type, and a lot of people use that during the day, that I've noticed. And I don't like to use that one during the day, but it does help at night, because that screen is really bright if you have it on regular brightness that you're trying to use during the day when the sun's out. But maybe something else is going on at night that affects the mishap record. I mean, getting back to that NAL report, the issue of pilot fatigue is only beginning to be scientifically addressed for commercial flight operations, and is largely untouched for private vehicle operation, including general aviation airplanes. Vehicle meaning cars, I think. Little about fatigue exists in typical aviation civilian pilot training texts beyond this simple self-evaluation guidance, part of the I Am Safe model on Chapter 17 of the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge. Everybody goes over these all the time. Illness, obviously, and medication, dealing with having sinus problems, in this case, or being fatigued from the flu or something else. And in medication, we talked about, in this safety meeting, I think in March or April, about over-the-counter meds and reading the labels and things like that, because that can really, in combining different things without being supervised, is an issue. That's really all up to the pilot. Stress, I think, even in terms of just everyday stress, and these days I think there's a lot more of that, and really trying to, I think, focus and really almost get your head straightened out before you get in the airplane, so you don't carry a lot of those things with you that will distract you. Alcohol, well, the 8 hours bottle of throttle probably works for some people. I guess as you get older, it's more probably like 8 days. Anyway, fatigue we're going to talk about later in this presentation. Emotions, I guess that's you're getting now into personal situations in your everyday personal life, which also I think has a lot to do with stress. Again, those will severely can impact, especially at night, can be really exacerbated. The only effective treatment for fatigue is adequate sleep. We do have some guidance. However, Dr. Samuel Strauss of NASA's Johnson Space Center Office of Aerospace Medicine writes that fatigue is a threat to aviation safety because of the impairments in alertness and performance it creates. Fatigue is defined as a non-pathologic state resulting in a decreased ability to maintain function or workload due to mental or physical stress. Fatigue is a normal response to many conditions common to flight. operations because of sleep loss, shift work, and long duty cycles. The only effective treatment for fatigue is adequate sleep. National Transportation Safety Board study of U.S. major carrier accidents involving flight crew from 1978 to 1990, one finding directly addressed the concern about fatigue. It stated half the captains for whom data was available had been awake for more than 12 hours prior to their accidents. Half of the first officers had been awake for more than 11 hours. Crews compromising captains and first officers whose time since awake was above the median for their crew position made more errors overall and significantly more procedural and tactical decision errors. If I'm flying at night, I won't fly during the day. I certainly won't fly at 7 a.m. If I have to fly at probably 9 p.m. to midnight, I probably won't come out to the airport before 5. So, that's a long time, and it is quite a load. GA pilots have no dispatch support structure to assess levels of fatigue, and sleep needs to vary between individuals, changing as those individuals age. Dr. Struss continues he says that there's considerable variability in individual sleep needs. Some individuals do well with 6 hours of sleep per night, yet others need 9 or 10 hours of sleep. However, most adults require 8 hours of restful sleep, restful to stay out of sleep debt. With aging, there's usually a significant decline in habitual daily sleep due to increased nighttime awakenings. Therefore, in older individuals, decreased quality of nighttime sleep can result in increased daytime fatigue, sleepiness, dozing, and napping. Napping seems to compensate for the loss of quality sleep during nighttime hours, but the need for a midday nap may not be compatible with flight duty demands on short-haul flights. Research has demonstrated that pre-planned cockpit rest has improved in-flight sustained attention and psychomotor response speed. We don't have enough couches around here. We do have a few. That's your pretty typical. If I have flights and I have time between them, especially at night, I'm gonna lay down, put my feet up, or do something like that. Complete recovery from significant sleep debt may not occur after a single sleep period. Usually 2 nights of recovery are required. 8 to 10 hours of recovery sleep per sleep period may be required for most people to achieve effective levels of alertness and performance. Off-duty time must be adequate to allow for at least 8 hours of restful sleep per night in order to recover from sleep debt and therefore the potentially hazardous effects of flying while fatigued. So how can you tell whether you're too fatigued? We got eyes going in and out of focus. Head bobs involuntarily. That happens to me when I'm driving sometimes. That's not good. Persistent yawning. Other than a student is pretty bored with what I'm talking about, but they might be tired anyway. Or you could be yawning right now. I can't see. Wandering or poorly organized thoughts. That's getting on the severe end of it there, I think, for some people. That happens to me probably most of the time anyway. Spotty near-term memory. Well, that's probably true. Missed or erroneous performance of routine procedures. That's, to me, seems like one of the most common ones. That one and degradation of control accuracy. Those two are the ones that are going to get you into trouble in an instrument approach, and just flying, especially at night when you don't have a lot of extra cues, visual cues out there, and all you've got is maybe what's right in front of you and very reduced cues out the window. So routine procedures are extremely important, especially maybe in the traffic pattern at night. If you're tired, adhering to altitudes is a little more work than in the daytime when you have cues. You can just look down on the ground, and so on. But if you have any of these symptoms in flight, it's already too late to avoid the hazards of fatigue. The trick is to assess not only your fatigue condition before taking off, but to make an educated guess as to how fatigued you'll be at the end of your flight in the highest workload phase of flight, which is approach and landing, and if needed, missed approach and diversion to an alternate, which is what most people don't really want to do, especially at night. Let's just get it down. Your best defense is to establish personal duty time limits. But often for GA pilots, the flight comes at the end of a work or vacation day. Substitute the word awake for flight time, and you'll get a good start at establishing personal duty limits. 9 consecutive of hours rest for less than 8 hours scheduled awake time. 10 hours rest for 8 hours or more, but less than 9 hours scheduled awake time. 11 hours rest for 9 hours or more of scheduled wake time. Your wake time ends at your estimated arrival time at the end of your flight, including flight to an alternate. If you don't have adequate rest for the workday plus the flight time, take time for a real nap before departure, or stay over and begin your trip the next morning. You can't accept the risk of suffering symptoms of fatigue while at the controls of an airplane. So that concludes this safety meeting for July 2020.